Yes, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from whatever part of the world you are watching us right now. Thanks for joining us. My name is David Ehling. I'm part of the Saertex marketing department and I will be your host for today's webinar. So as you can see already, the topic for today is carbon, and we try to answer the question why the use of carbon is growing so fast in marine applications. Before we start, just a short note from my side. The whole webinar will be recorded and you will be able to watch it online afterwards. Also, if you have questions, feel free to type them into the Q&A field, and directly after the presentation we will have an open question part where we will try to answer as many questions as possible. So I think most of you probably know Saertex, but for those who don't know us, just a very brief introduction. We are specialists for non-crimp fabrics and were founded in the early 80s. Nowadays we are active in more than 50 countries worldwide, and approximately we employ at the moment about 1,400 employees. So now I have the honor to introduce to you the speakers for today's webinar. First of all, we have Santiago Perez Castillo. He's the area sales manager for Portugal and Spain, and he has more than 25 years of experience and is a real specialist when it comes to marine applications. Also, Santiago is a real lucky guy because he's joining us from his hopefully sunny hometown of Valencia today. Next one, we have Carsten Reese. He's a technical service and innovation manager in our R&D department, and his main duties are the development of new products and innovations in the marine sector. So far from my side, I would say, without further ado, I would now hand over to you, Santiago.
Thank you very much, David. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today here. My idea with this webinar would be, as you've mentioned, we would like to share with all the attendees, which are worldwide welcome, and we would like to share not only our experience, but also some cases of success and some ways of thinking about carbon in marine. It is well known that it is a very, very interesting material, but as from this webinar, I think you will see it in a different way, because it is very much interesting how it has evolved and how is it focusing and facing the future in the marine industry. Let's start. The idea of this presentation will be, first of all, to get into, with a very quick example, just getting into the topic. Let's think that you are having at present one project on the desk, and you are analyzing how this ship, how this vessel is going to be designed, constructed, what options do you have? Do you have metals like steel, like aluminum? And then you come to the solution that hopefully, because it is our business, you decide that the best solution would be with composite materials. Composite materials, of course, there are different options regarding the resin, but mainly you will be analyzing one option that could be related to glass. And let's take that these 3 tons of material, you are evaluating how much would that cost. Okay, let's put an average price of around 3 euros per kg. It's a general example. And let's think that you are thinking about, okay, my budget would be around 9,000 euros in glass. But how about if you also consider the option of using a general carbon fabric, which also for these 3 tons will be at a price of around 87,000 euros. Wow, that is a big difference. In fact, we are talking about a gap which is around 78,000 euros, which is quite a lot of difference and quite a figure to think about, because you may be thinking, okay, are we crazy? Are we giving the money away because we have so much money, we have so much budget that we can really go for carbon? The thing I mean, what would be coming up into your mind is, would somebody be so fool to use carbon in this situation? That is the question. The answer is clear. Yes, and you will see why there are many reasons that are making carbon the appropriate solution in the marine and other sectors, but especially marine, and why is it growing so fast in the next years. First of all, if we consider what are the benefits of carbon in terms of technical reasons, okay, there is very clear one, lightweight. Lightweight compare especially against metal, because the lighter you make the vessel, of course, the more options you will have. Why? Because the hydrodynamic drag, which is related to how much volume is it, going into the water, and the more volume you will have, the more power you would need to move the vessel forward. Of course, they are very much related. Those are technical reasons which also relate to a high specific strength that the carbon has compared to other materials. Materials that when you compare how much strength do you get per cubic centimeter, carbon is by far one of the highest rating in this comparison. And at the end, last but not least, you will find that the durability of the material when using carbon, it is by far much, much longer than any other options, especially against steel or aluminum. Okay. These are technical reasons, if we can say in that way. But we wanted not just to say what it is our technical reason, and we have asked 3 partners. It's not only customers when we think about them, it is projects and people who are very much knowing what they say when they are talking about the use of carbon in marine. That's why we ask, first of all, the company Broden, especially the general manager, Thor Obling, when we said, could you let us know?
First of all, for us who are producing fast ferry, means that we need to have energy efficient ferries. And by using carbon fiber, we save weight. That means that our vessel can operate with less energy, save fuel, or reduce battery capacity. To reduce battery capacity means lower cost. So there is also an economic advantage by using a low energy vessel built by carbon fiber. So, and we have also the low maintenance reason for using carbon fiber compared with metallic constructions like aluminum or steel. There is a lot of good reasons why we use carbon fiber.
Mm-hmm. That's a very, very significant opinion, and his testimonial was also backed up by Mr. Bjorn Honning from Norway also. He was a very, very important man.
Carbon has a future in the marine industry, as in many other industry, because it's high stiffness to weight ratios and high strength, of course. So for weight critical applications, such as marine high-speed crafts of any type, we can reduce the weight significantly. And for commercial operations, this will lead to fuel saving. And for other applications, you can take the advantage in speed.
Well, those are reasons which go far beyond the technical side. And we wanted, of course, to go and move forward and see how is the market, analyzing, and how is the market receiving this, and what is the market going to be like in the future years. We have stated by different sources that the composite market in marine in 2019 was, analyzed and was giving a figure of around $4.2 billion. If we see what are the trends according also to these sources, we see that in 2023, which is not that far away, only a couple of years in the next years, we will expect having a $5.7 billion of composite use in this marine market. This is quite a huge trend and quite a huge growth expected of over 35%. And within the whole market, carbon fibers is projected to be the fastest growing fiber type within this market. Believe it or not, but it is not only our opinion, it is not only our thinking, it is a lot of people who are really looking forward to use really extensively and intensively these fibers into the market of marine. What we think, okay, we had a look around from our expertise, from some comments with our project managers, and also some projects that our customers and designers have been undertaking so far. And we divided the marine market in 4 main markets. It is a first market related to, it's easy to recall, because the typical America's Cup racing yachts, we will get into it in a minute. A second market, which is related to sailing yachts, which can also compete or only be for leisure. A third market, which is related to the luxury boats. And a final market where we put everything which was a big engineering demand, and carbon has been able to solve these requirements. Let's jump into them. When we go into the America's racing yachts, I mean, you may be familiar with similar pictures and similar videos like this one, where you see, is this a ship? Is this a vessel? Is it perhaps something that is like a space shuttle? Because here, what it is really required in this sector, it is extreme high performance. How many knots could we gain? It is, I would say, the main question that everybody is asking along the whole value chain. Why? Because here, if you want to state that in only one sentence, I would say every milligram counts. So we are going so fine and so accurate in the calculations, in the hydrodynamics, in the engineering, that absolutely every milligram makes a difference. And it could be that because of these few milligrams, you would be the first or perhaps the second. Here, if we talk about profit, I would say it is important, but it is not the main issue. Just think about what price could we set for one of these vessels when we're talking that in a project in average, we will be talking about over 55,000 hours in design and over, on top of that, 70,000 hours in production. How much money could we rate the final selling price for this vessel? Absolutely stratospheric. However, we think it is not the only market which is interesting for carbon fibers, and that's why we came in the area of sailing yachts. Sailing yachts that, as you see in the picture, of course, they are requiring high performance, without any doubt. Some of them, as I mentioned, are oriented for racing and have to be also extreme high performance, but not all of them. There is also a mixture, and many of them are oriented towards leisure. Here also the question is also important, because how many knots could we gain can result, as the project managers from Broden or from Fireco mentioned before. This could make a difference in one race, or this could make a difference in using one engine, another engine having more fuel, having more water, or I mean, any of the different aspects you have to consider in all of these projects. Here, we go a little bit down and we will say, not every milligram, we come to a point where every kilogram counts. So if you want to state what is the main issue, the main driver in this segment, I would say every kilogram counts. Here, as I mentioned, top performance, it is required. Hey, but also profit is a very important issue, because at the end, we are building these vessels and we want to sell them, and hopefully in a serial way, because we'd like to produce many of them. Okay, this is the second market. We found it was interesting for the use of carbon. And then we came to the luxury boats. This is one of the most exciting boats I have got across, which is fully made in carbon and some parts in glass also. And it's called Hans Steiger. It is being produced here in the port of Alicante. And as you can see, it is full luxus. You will see later on some pictures when we interview the team of Hans Steiger. And here, Of course, it is required good performance to very, very interesting, speeds and also how agile can become this ship. But here, also very, very important, even sometimes even more, to give an impressive image, as you see in the picture. The main question here, it is what else could we bring in the boat to enhance the experience with the weight or volume savings? And when I say what can we bring in the ship or what can we bring in the vessel when we save something, it is just to think about if we could place a jacuzzi like this one is having up on the right, or if you could have a more powerful air condition to spend under the sunny days, or to have more water, or to have a bigger living room. I mean, anything that could enhance your experience when traveling with this vessel. Here, it is not the milligram, it is not the gram, it is the cubic meter. Every cubic meter counts. Why? Because you can dedicate this cubic meter to enhance the experience in such a luxury vessel. That's why I say good performance is important, but luxury is above all. And you may think, what is this Batman sign down in the screen mentioning? I can tell you, I mean, this vessel has been classified or has been mentioned in many media, like television, like radio, also like the newspapers, as the catamaran from Batman. And we are talking about something which is really breaking the rules and cutting edge technology into the market. And finally, when we move to the fourth group, which is related to engineering solutions, here what we find are challenges which are exceeding, in many cases, traditional ways of solving them with materials like steel and many others. Here, I would like to highlight three very, very interesting projects which we have participated and we are happy to share with you. Here, it is one of the star projects or the key projects from Brodem. Mr. Thor Ovin mentioned that here, when they were receiving the challenge, the main driver was to protect environmental. And when we say about environmental protection, we're talking about reducing the noise and the exhaust emissions to be to the very absolute limit. Just think about this big ferry traveling in the Baltic fjords without any noise, without any smoke, without any emissions at all. That is a trend. And it is not just a single project. It is not just a spot project or a one-off. It is a trend which is becoming more and more popular into the market. In fact, most of the ferry companies are promoting their trips like emissions-free trips. And that is something that is becoming more and more popular. Here, sustainability on the overall life of the ship becomes really a very, very interesting issue. And in many cases decides to go from one material to another one. And here carbon, as you see, this whole vessel here is manufactured with carbon. It was initially in 2016, the first project called the Vision of the Fjords, but not the last one. In 2018, the Future of the Fjord, the brother or the sister, if you want to call it, came into the water. And finally, in 2020, not only the legacy of the fjords, but also Rig Electra was the continued projects of this success story. Very interesting, but not the only thing. I mean, we also get from time to time projects where we are challenged, trying to force the limits, trying to push the limits that some other materials, like in this case steel, have been got to the very limit. Here, what we receive are challenges related to high-end engineering demands. It is not just a question of reducing weight, but many other issues. And here, the lightweight design in carbon versus steel, it gives you many opportunities, not just to reduce weight, but also to bring some new additional features in the design. The objective we had with Rolls-Royce here was to optimize the component of a high power to weight radio, and of course, to improve the hydrodynamic shape in order to make the flow of the ship much, much better. The result was really, really interesting. It was very happy from people like the mechanical engineers at Rolls-Royce, Darius Drogovic. He said, it is still amazing to see components of such size in this quality. I really like what you did with the outer shells, using just 2 pieces of fabric joined right at the edge where the shape totally changes so it is not visible. So these challenges really brings carbon into a new dimension which it's not just for mechanical, for weight, but also in some cases, also protecting. And this is a Spanish project also where the design of this high-speed vessel, it is very innovative. And when the owner went to the insurance company, he got the following question. Okay, I would like to insure this, but it is becoming more and more important that what would it happen if you get fire? And we all thought, okay, fire in the water is not an issue. No, perhaps not, because you can get into the water. But how about I would not like to pay for the whole ship again, for the whole vessel again? And that's why insurance companies are putting more and more pressure on higher security against fire. That's why if you can insure, if you can give more guarantees that in case of fire, the vessel will not burn, then the fees you have to pay to the insurance companies go down. And here, one of our new products, which is called Leo coated fabric, are used for protection. In which areas? In which areas where you can have a spark or you can detonate some fire. Fuel areas, fuel tanks, as you see in the picture, or some electricity boxes areas where a small spark could light some fire in this vessel. As you see, I mean, there are challenges in all these 4 groups, and new projects are coming. And of course, that is our way of thinking. We would like to reinforce your ideas. What with? With our knowledge and of course with our products. But fabrics alone are not just to be used. You always have to think about this is a combination with other materials, of course, but basically fabric goes always together with resin. And that's why there is a little bit of controversy in the market. We wanted to ask also our partners and say, what do you think about the resin? How do you see the use of resin? And which type of resins are you using regularly?
We decided already in 2001, when we started building ferries in carbon fiber, that we should use vinyl ester. The reason why we use vinyl ester is that it's we get the same strength as we get by using epoxy, but in most of the strength areas. There is different types of epoxy we can use, but we see that by using vinyl ester, we can use it very much the same way as we use the polyester, and that was what our workers was using before we start using carbon fiber. So that's one of the main reasons. The environment, working environment.
Mm.
And of course, it's also a lower price on vinyl ester compared with epoxy.
Okay.
So it's that's also one reason. You always try to get cost a sustainable product and economically, and so that's also important.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting point of view. We also wanted to check with Hans Steiger with the use, what resins did they use for this catamaran from Batman?
Bueno, nosotros básicamente usamos al final varios tipos de resina. usamos o resina de epoxi o resina de vinilester, ¿no? Para el casco hemos usado con fibras de vidrio resina de vinilester, pero con fibra de carbono ya directamente hemos dicho se merece obviamente una buena resina de epoxi, ¿no?
That's the idea. We have many situations where resin becomes also a very important decision. And that's why here at this point, I would like to hand it over to my colleague, Carsten, who will join us in making, some very interesting points of view regarding the combination of the carbon fabrics and also with the resin. So please, Carsten, go ahead.
Thanks a lot, Santiago. So right now, after we heard something about the applications from Santiago, I just wanted to show you some solutions. And first of all, I want to explain something a little bit about the different resin types we have in marine. So first of all, we have 3 different resin types: polyester, vinyl ester, and epoxy mostly used. For the first one, the polyester is the cheapest, the vinyl ester is in the medium range of pricing, and the epoxy is the most expensive one. This is you see, for example, on the strength of this material, the epoxy is, is the best one. The vinyl ester is in the range between the polyester and the epoxy, and the polyester is from strength-wise the lowest one. When you have a look on the environmental impact of these kind of materials, polyester and vinyl ester have a high impact due to the styrene content. For example, if you use an open mold, you have a lot of emissions on this kind of materials. Epoxy isn't also so good due to the long curing times you need to achieve this maximum strength we have in this kind of material. Now I want to show something about the solutions for the America's Cup materials. So first of all, in the America's Cup materials, they use mostly pre-preg materials to achieve this maximum lightweight. The fibers used in here are intermediate modulus carbon and high modulus carbon fibers. So here you have the pre-preg material in this process where you first have the fibers, then coated with the resin. Afterwards you cut and lay up the material, and afterwards you have the preforming of the material, curing, and the demolding, and then you have the final part. The material mostly used here is carbon, and you also use mostly EP resins in this kind of applications. In this kind of process change, you have low quantities mostly because it's more or less a niche product. It's comparable with aerospace applications, and therefore you have also a high layup time due to the low aerial weights of the different plies, and therefore it's quite an expensive process. For the sailing yards and luxury boats, we also have nearly the same solutions. First of all, we have non-crimp fabrics for infusion processes. So if you don't have, you don't know what a non-crimp fabric is, you can see it here on the left. It is different layers of material which are stacked on each other and afterwards assembled through a stitching yarn, which you see on the right top corner, through a stitching process. So what we can achieve with this kind of process is we can use different styles like UD materials, bidirectional materials, biaxial materials, quadriaxial materials, triaxial materials, or for example you can use different kind of fibers or different kind of stitching yarns for this kind of applications. So these ones are tailor-made solutions. If we want to talk about multi-compatible solutions for each kind of resin type, we have our basic line. This is a list of different styles like the UD or BiX materials which come from our past experience with our customers, which are mostly frequent requested from them. So these kind of materials are always on stock and distributed via unter distribution centers in which we have 3 in Europe. Also, we have some special solutions in these kinds of list, like our Zarcor, Zarflower, Zarfix material, which I explain later on a little bit. So if we want to have a special challenge for us, or if we want to have a special look on the one process where we use our fabrics in, is for example the pre-preg process, which is also used in sailing yards and luxury boats. There you have nearly the same process as we had during the America's Cup yards, but we feed in some of our material in this, at the start, later on cut it, lay it in the mold, preform it, then cure it, and later on you have your final part. In this kind of applications, normally high tensile fibers or intermodulate fibers are used, and the NCF, of course, as a reinforcement in this kind of applications. Resin types here are EP and vinyl ester resins. But with fabrics, we have some challenges in this kind of applications. The first one is the necking of the material, and the second one is the quilting of the material. So to explain you the necking, you can see it here in the picture. First of all, if you apply some tension on the material, you have a narrowing of the whole tape, and therefore you lose the width of the whole material, and also the angles of the material change a little bit. Therefore, we have some special solutions in our product line where we solve this kind of problem in our materials. The second problem is the quilting, which is more or less a sacking of the reinforcement layers between some glass stabilizations, for example, where if you apply this, if you apply also stress to material, this is you can see the sacking in there. But of course, you can ask for special solution to prevent this necking and quilting in our NCFs by Saertex. For the engineering solutions, we have, or for the engineered solution, we also have some slides here. So first of all, if we want to talk about carbon with vinyl ester resin, we also have some optimized fabrics. These kinds of fabrics use a special fiber, which has a special sizing, and therefore get the maximum bonding strength between the fabric and the resin, which enhance your application, of course. Here you can see in the picture some mechanical values of this. The right black column or gray column is the non-optimized fabric, for example, with a base index of 100. And on the yellow bar, you can see our optimized version with the vinyl ester sizing. So you can see here the tensile 90 strength and modulus, which shows the bonding strength between the resin and the fabric itself. So if you use an optimized version, you can increase the strength about 24% and the modulus about 7% in total, which is a significant increase for your material properties, which also assures less material in your whole layup, of course. So if you look at the main benefits, if you use a VE-optimized carbon fabric from us, you have no changeover in your process. You can still use the same process which you used already with your other fabrics. You have maximum strength, and they can ensure this strength on a high level. So for the engineered materials, which we also have in our product lines, we also have, if you have some obstacles with the fire resistance, we have, for example, our Leo system or Leo series with the whole material based on gel coat, resin, and fabric, or, for example, also our coated fabric. If you have a challenge with a complex stacking, like vertical walls, where your material can stick to the surface, we have our Saertex material, which is an adhesive bond on the surface of our fabrics. Or you can also get this kind of material on a transfer paper. The next one which we have here is for low flow speeds in your process. Therefore, we have our materials Saercore and Saerflow, which are flow medias you can get into your stack. But of course, we also have many more different kind of solutions for your demands in this kind of applications. Thanks a lot. I want to hand over to Santiago to show you maybe what our customer says about this.
Thank you very much, Carsten. It is really interesting to see, the challenges we are receiving and how we are reacting with different options. And at the end, what really drives us into this market is our ability to get the challenge and to try to solve it and finally come to a solution which fits into the project that our customers require. That is something that we are happy to say, and we also wanted to ask our main customers in these projects, well, how do you see the future of the carbon? And for this future, how do you see the cooperation with Saertex in the next upcoming projects? And that's why we asked some of them, and this is what they say.
Yo creo que es viable, siempre al final, claro, todo depende, ¿no? Por ejemplo, para los astilleros en serie a lo mejor buscan o se buscan más beneficio empresarial, y entonces a lo mejor si el cliente busca no quiere un precio muy alto del producto final, pues a lo mejor no es tan adecuado, pero sí que es verdad que cada vez, al final el carbono a todo el mundo le gusta, es un tema de lujo, y cada vez lo estamos viendo en los astilleros, las grandes marcas cada vez van introduciendo pequeños elementos. Esos pequeños elementos ahora, dentro de unos años, serán cada vez piezas más grandes, pues cada vez se está poniendo los techos de los flybridge en carbono, o pilares totalmente en carbono. Es como un elemento a destacar, que da lujo, que da prestigio. Y luego, aparte, que es una cosa que es muy trabajada, porque la fibra de carbono en los carbon looks son cosas muy de detalle, son cosas ya no solo que la fibra cueste dinero porque cueste dinero, sino que es una cosa que es difícil de trabajar y que requiere mucha profesionalidad, y entonces es un elemento, es como un valor añadido al producto final.
¿Carbono?
Sí, desde luego, pues es totalmente recomendable. De hecho, en este proyecto tenemos aproximadamente el 50% en fibra de carbono y en fibra de vidrio, y para la siguiente unidad se contempla el 100% en fibra de carbono. Por las propiedades mecánicas que le otorga el carbono a la estructura del barco, desde luego es mucho más beneficiosa que la de la fibra de vidrio.
Bueno, pues para nosotros ha sido un gran apoyo, sobre todo porque inicialmente, cuando nos introdujimos en el mundo del carbono, no teníamos un proveedor que nos ayudara, que nos diera las cuestiones técnicas, que nos aportara sus conocimientos, las aplicaciones. Al final, una empresa tan multinacional y que ha probado tanto todos los productos, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, ha sido un apoyo, un gran apoyo. Al final, contar con empresas, grandes empresas que tienen su historia, pues para nosotros es fundamental.
That is the experience from the point of view of a final user, and the experience from the point of view of a designer or an engineer. It is very much complementary, as you will see.
Well, I think carbon has a great future in boat building, not necessarily for the complete vessels, but for components which are stiffness driven, so to speak, especially for accommodation decks and engine foundations and so on. They benefit a lot from carbon fiber. Now, when commercial operators are competing with, as I said earlier, also with aluminium and glass structures because of the weight saving, I see a great future for carbon in this industry. That depends on the application. Glass is a great material as well, and as you well know, it's much less costly. So you have to use it in applications where you can really use the benefits of carbon. But for weight critical and fuel consumption critical vessels, I would recommend to go for carbon fibers. Well, Saertex is a major supplier to the industries that we are supporting, and we have always had good support from them. They have even invested quite heavily in qualification programs for our customers. So we are very happy with the support of Saertex in this matter.
Well, that has been basically how we see the market, how we present and introduce our solutions, and how the market is reacting. We are very much happy to say that we would be glad to help and support you in this journey, because I think it is a challenge that will be becoming more and more important in the future years. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to share with you our point of view and our experience. And then now I will hand it over back to David, and he will let us know how we can proceed with the question and answers.
Yes, thanks a lot, Santiago. Thanks a lot, Carsten. It was a real nice presentation. I enjoyed it a lot. Thanks. So, as promised in the beginning, we will now have an extra part for the questions you submitted already, but of course you can already now type them into the Q&A field if you have any more questions. And just to break the ice a little bit, I will go first and make the start. So my topic would be about sustainability. We all know the topic of sustainability is very, very important for all of us. And my question is, what can we say in the use of carbon, for the use of carbon in relation to this topic, sustainability? Santiago, perhaps you can answer this one?
Yeah, we'll try to. I mean, sustainability has been one of our main concerns already since several years at Saertex. We have been, thinking how to bring sustainable products and at the end to provide the tools and the materials and the support for really sustainable projects. This is something that it is in our DNA and something we are always focusing so much that we like to ask also our customers, what can we do to improve your sustainability? And we knew that this is a question that is really a hot topic in the market right now. And that's why we asked Mr. Thorn Øyvind from Broden, how do you see sustainability? Because when we think about sustainability, it is not just how recyclable or how environmental friendly, it is the raw material itself. He's got a much broader point of view, which I really appreciate very much that he has been able to share with us. Right. Excuse me. I think it's not appearing, David. Here, yeah.
There is many areas with the sustainability with regards to the environment. I think carbon fiber, you have also a very long lifetime of the material. So I think you are talking about hundreds of years. If you really want to use the product, it will survive much longer than the metallic structures. That's also part of the sustainability. Our carbon fiber vessels, our oldest, are 20 years. It's still in operation and they just win a tender with that vessel. So it's still a modern vessel and it looks like new. It was an ambulance boat. It was running more than 40 knots and have been really tested in slamming and rough seas.
So next question, someone asks, I think this is for you, Carsten, which suppliers do you have for carbon